From the nation's capital, Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce. A weekly discussion about the federal issues most important to Nevada. And now, from Washington, D.C., here's Marilee Joyce.
And good day to you. I'm Marilee Joyce, and this is Eye on Washington, the only statewide Nevada news program produced in Washington, D.C. Every week, Eye on Washington takes you straight to Capitol Hill for a discussion with Nevada's delegation and other leaders about the federal matters that matter to you. Today's topic, it has been called the most substantial highway infrastructure bill in history. So just how important is the reauthorization of the FAST Act to Nevada? Well, my guest says very. He is Lee Gibson, the Executive Director of the Regional Transportation Commission of Washoe County. Thanks for being here today.
It's great to be back.
Thank you. It will help road construction get done faster, better, cheaper, and smarter. That's what the chairman of the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee said in late July upon introducing a 5-year reauthorization of the Fixing America's Surface Transportation Act. And today on Eye on Washington, we'll tell you why my guest says Congress needs to be on a fast track to reauthorize the FAST Act. We'll tell you what it already has meant in northern Nevada road projects. And later in the show, we'll discuss the link between a strong transportation system and a strong economy. When Mr. Gibson joined the congressman on our show a few months ago to share news on top RTC road projects, one of the things he emphasized was the crucial need of knowing long-term budgets when overseeing long-term planning. Since a good-sized chunk of RTC funding is from the federal government, when that funding is allocated year to year, he told us, it's tough to plan ahead. And that's why it was such great news to the RTC when the FAST Act was passed in 2015. The 5-year, $226 billion bill, which funds federal highway programs, was the first long-term transportation funding bill since 2005. And now with its expiration coming just a year from now, leaders like our guest, Mr. Gibson, are anxiously awaiting its reauthorization. Now, Mr. Gibson, it's a $287 billion bill now, and it's been renamed America's Transportation Infrastructure Act. And that would extend the bill another 5 years. I remember you're telling my audience why long-term funding is crucial to you when you're meeting Nevada's road and other projects.
Well, it's important, Marilee, because we will enter into construction contracts with contractors to build major projects that extend beyond 1 year. So we like to know that there can be a multi-year certainty to funding and those cash flows that are necessary for us to complete projects, such as starting with NDOT on the Spaghetti Bowl, or our efforts on Virginia Street right now, or our recently completed efforts on 4th Street and Prater Way. So that certainty of cash flow really gives us an ability to negotiate with contractors to bring in better prices and reduce risk overall to the taxpayer. You
know, I read that nearly 60 transportation projects in Nevada are at risk without meaningful federal support. It takes you months or even years, doesn't it, to plan for road improvement, expansion, even just basic maintenance? You know,
Marilee, that's a very important point, and it's not, I'm going to argue it's not just 60 projects. It's probably every project in the state. Because what happens is we will look at, say, 60 projects. We will look at a guaranteed commitment or a commitment from the federal government for those 60 projects. If that commitment isn't realized, then all of a sudden we're having to go move pots of money around. We're having to maybe leverage more local money into these projects and try to figure out how we can keep a steady stream of dollars flowing to improvements, but also trying to make fill stopgaps or fill gaps in funding because the federal government may be late in delivering
So it's certainty versus uncertainty, basically.
It's certainty versus uncertainty. It's federal versus local dollars, not in the sense of a competition between federal and local dollars, but just trying to manage cash so we can get people out there making the improvements that are so important to the economy.
And yet, despite the aging infrastructure that you and other motorists are seeing every day, you know, before the FAST Act was passed, Congress ignored the need for a long term, and they passed a total of 36 short-term spending bills, transportation spending fixes, I guess, during the 10 years that led up to the FAST Act's passage. You said when you were here a few months ago, you said short-term bills equals short-term planning, and that's not ideal for a state like Nevada and a county like Washoe, where you have great maintenance and expansion needs and need to know what budget you have to work with.
That's absolutely correct, and I still stand by that statement today. As we watch the Tri-Center in Story County grow, as we watch South Reno continue to expand, as we see the North Valleys that already has sustained itself as a major employment center for manufacturing, technological, and logistical companies, we really need to work with NDOT, and we really need to work with our federal partners and our delegation to keep that certainty in place so the next 5 years brings us projects and brings us the dollars necessary to complete improvements. It's just got to get done.
And when we return, so we know a long-term bill means better long-term planning, but what has the FAST Act already meant to Nevada and to your daily transportation? Let's ask my guest right after this.
You're watching Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce, brought to you by Caesars Entertainment, the Regional Transportation Commission of Washoe County, the Las Vegas Sands Corporation, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, NV Energy, Jim Marsh Automotive and Body Shop, the Rogich Communications Group, and Renown Health.
I have 3 tests next week. I'm going to be studying all weekend. Ugh. Are you studying tonight? We can meet up and study together. Oh yeah, that sounds good. What time? I work until 6. Okay, sounds good. Just text me after. Okay. No!
There is no text, tweet, or call that's worth a life.
One pedestrian death is one too many.
Look up.
And look out for each other.
Want more federal news that affects Nevada, its businesses, and its residents? Then you need to subscribe to Nevada's Washington Watch newsletter, your sole source of online news direct from Washington, D.C. Visit joycecommunications.com and subscribe today.
The state of Nevada licenses and inspects a range of health facilities, from hospitals and nursing homes to surgery centers, halfway houses, treatment centers, and more. Inspection and complaint information are available free online at findahealthfacility.nv.gov. You can search for individual facilities or by facility type and by city or county. You should always choose a licensed healthcare facility to ensure the highest standards for provision of care. Again, to find licensing and inspection information, visit findahealthfacility.nv.gov.
I got my own iPod Touch and used my dad's login to get on gambling sites. Poker is the best, but I'm losing a lot. Since I'm too young to play, they're not allowed to keep the money and my dad won't find out. That's right, isn't it?
This is a storm drain. It collects stormwater. Grass clippings, fertilizer, yard waste, they all contaminate our stormwater. Litter, pet waste, they also contaminate it. Fluids from leaking vehicles run right in there. All stormwater goes untreated directly to our local waterways. Keep contaminants out of our storm drains and out of our waters. Join us in preserving Nevada's waters for future generations.
And welcome back to Eye on Washington, our look at how the FAST Act helps you get around, well, faster, as well as safer and more efficiently. My guest today is Lee Gibson, the Executive Director of the Regional Transportation Commission of Washoe County. So let's spend this segment looking at just how important the FAST Act has been to Nevada. The Fixing America's Surface Transportation Act provided more than $305 billion in funding for surface transportation programs for fiscal years 2016 through 2020, setting the course for transportation investments in highways. It aims to improve mobilities on America's highways, create jobs and support economic growth, and accelerate project delivery and promote innovation, all of which are very important to a state like Nevada with its huge needs for roads and infrastructure maintenance and expansion, as well as its growing population, which needs both jobs and the ability to get to them safely and efficiently. Now, one project of big importance to my guest, and which Nevada U.S. Congressman Mark Amodei even specifically mentions on the transportation page of his website, the FAST Act formally designates the I-11 expansion. Now, Mr. Gibson, you've been on the show previously discussing the huge importance of this project, and it's big to the delegation too. I found a lot of samples online, but here's one from Congressman Amade. He said, quote, "The vision for the corridor is to connect Mexico with Canada through Nevada, a plan that could take 50 years to complete. State and local stakeholders need to provide input now on the importance of I-11 to meet the growing economic and transportation needs of the state." What do you say?
What do I say? I say I-11. I totally agree with the congressman. I-11 is critical. When I look at the economy of northern Nevada, northwestern Nevada, and I look at the huge growth in manufacturing, high technology, and logistical companies moving into our area, looking at the products that they are producing, the products that they're adding value to, and where those products are ending up, they're all ending up on the interstate system, and they're all moving either across the country to the East Coast, or they're moving to the West Coast and possibly being part of our export base internationally. I-11 is going to help us connect to Mexico, help us connect to Canada, and give us that access from the north and south to be able to continue to grow that sector of our economy and continue to diversify our economy. So in my mind, it's absolutely critical we get I-11 done.
Yeah, I read the I-11 project will bring Nevada an estimated $24 billion in economic impact, create 240,000 jobs, provide up to $39 billion in travel benefits. So what else does I-11 mean to you in the RTC Washoe?
From my sort of global perspective, it's going to make us less of a bridge state and more of a crossroads. And what do you see at crossroads? At crossroads, you see continued redevelopment, development, and diversification. So as I-11 gets built, we're going to see that continued growth of our economy, and we'll see that continued diversification that's so critical to us having what I call a recession-proof economy in the long run.
You know, we didn't get to about the FAST Act that I wanted to ask you last segment, how else it helps you or support you in the work you do. You know, how does the allocation you receive help you work with the state's other metropolitan planning organizations?
Well, we work with the RTC of Southern Nevada, we work with Carson City RTC, we work with the Lake. What we all try to do is work, and with NDOT, we work cooperatively to look at what we think will be the total revenues that will be flowing to the state. We work through the One Nevada Plan, which is a master plan and a decision-making framework that's sponsored by the NDOT to help us set statewide priorities. We run a performance-based planning system now, so projects that are exceeding certain thresholds become the top priorities. That's how, for example, the Spaghetti Bowl in Reno, the I-80, I-580 interchange, is really the #1 priority from the standpoint that it is the highest accident location for a system-to-system interchange in our state today. It used to be the US 95 I-15 interchange in Las Vegas, but thanks to the completion of Project Neon by NDOT, we're expecting that accident rate to fall dramatically now with those improvements in place. That means the Spaghetti Bowl's next in line.
Okay, and just ahead, we're going to have a closer look at why a good transportation system directly impacts the state's economy, and that's right after this.
Nevada's direct link to Capitol Hill. Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce. The only statewide Nevada news show based in Washington, D.C. All the top federal matters that matter most to Nevadans. Marilee talks with our congressional delegation and other leaders about the federal news you need to know. Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce. Nevada's Eye on Capitol Hill.
When you think RTC, what comes to mind? How about jobs? RTC road projects bring thousands of jobs to Washoe County, expanding and connecting northern Nevada, growing our local economy, providing a more secure future for our residents and their families. So when you think jobs, think RTC, your RTC, the RTC of Washoe County.
My brother RJ had me believe that he knew exactly what he was taking. He did put on a good front, but I don't think that during those times he was ever necessarily sober. We lost RJ at 32 to a prescription opioid overdose.
All right, next up is Chewy and Chloe reading for No Place Like Home. Mark it. And action. Chloe, turn around. Okay, can we reset? Okay, well, we're gonna do one more. Can we get you back on your mark? Okay, now show me those adoptable faces. Okay, guys, back to one. Someone get the ball. What? Okay, yeah, now you sit on that side. Oh, no, sit. Show me some love. Wow, that's a lot of love. Okay, great. Thanks for coming in. Perfect. Yeah, we'll call you.
I overdosed on opioids, and it nearly ended my life. Thanks to someone carrying naloxone, my life is saved.
Naloxone is a simple nose spray that reverses the effects of an opioid overdose. Naloxone should only be used in an emergency. To learn more, visit nvopioidresponse.org.
Safety. We all think about it. You think about it when he buckles in, when you check your mirrors and put away your phone. RTC thinks about safety too. In fact, we create it. Center turn lanes mean fewer blind spots. Bike lanes keep cyclists and you safe. Roundabouts reduce injury collisions, and all these crosswalks are designed to keep families like yours safe. Safety is your priority, and it's ours too. Every day, in everything we do.
And welcome back to Eye on Washington, our discussion of the FAST Act and the link between a strong transportation system and a strong state economy. We've been visiting with Lee Gibson, the head of the Regional Transportation Commission of Washoe County. Well, I bet you will drive or travel in a vehicle today, and if so, your trip will be one of the 10.5 billion trips on America's roads each year. And as Mr. Gibson knows too well, those are roads that need constant maintenance and rehabilitation to keep your trip safe and convenient. But beyond safety and convenience, good roads are nothing short of essential to a state's very economic well-being. In fact, at the top of his website's transportation page, Nevada U.S. Congressman Mark Amadei says, quote, "I believe transportation infrastructure is one of the most important elements in creating a thriving, job-creating economy. A strong transportation system means access to employment, housing, healthcare, education, goods and services, recreation, entertainment, family and social activities, and it keeps businesses in business, giving them access to suppliers, markets, and employers." And Mr. Gibson, when you have reduced access due to traffic congestions, lack of adequate capacity, deteriorated roads, bridges, transit facilities, you see reduced economic productivity and a poorer quality of life, don't you?
Absolutely.
How are they tied?
They're tied, and I hope I explained this kind of correctly because I think this is really important. Traffic congestion leads to an increase in the cost that you, the driver, or you, the transit passenger, have to experience. But most importantly, it has a direct effect on your ability to afford a home. And as you know, in Nevada, in northern Nevada, Reno Sparks, we have an affordability issue right now in housing. And good transportation, allowing people to have choices at their home site where they live on how they can get to work, is a real driver in terms of how we can provide different housing opportunities for folks to be able to make choices that fit within their budget but still provide them accessibility. Homes that are at the fringe, that are typically cheaper but require a long commute, a long dangerous commute perhaps, is something that is a real inhibitor on our ability to attract, retain, and develop citizens in our community. First, and I'm talking about people, we don't want workers to come to our community, we want residents, citizens, community to evolve and develop. So to me, we've got to have a transportation system that's going to give people that opportunity to have choices in housing. We're working, for example, on an affordable housing study right now around our transit stations to see how we can work with developers and better leverage investment in real estate, residential real estate in and around 4th Prater and Virginia Street, so that people will have a transit option, a high capacity transit option in those corridors. So this is something that's going to evolve over time. It's going to be something we're going to focus on with respect to future reauthorization. And it's something that's not just limited to transit, it's also highways. We want to be able to build roads and be able to provide people accessibility, connectivity, and mobility to different housing types and to different employment opportunities.
You know, also the Nevada economy largely is based on tourism, mining, manufacturing, agriculture. How does the Nevada transportation system play a role in the state's economic growth and overall quality of life?
You know, Marilee, you mentioned something that's important, and we don't often talk about it in our show, in our discussion, in our policy roundtables, and that's the role of mining and the rurals. You know, they produce, the mining industry is an extremely large portion of our economy. They operate a wide variety of unique vehicles. They use, in some cases, autonomous technology. I see mining as something, as we look to our region, beyond the borders of Washoe County, something that we're going to have to pay much more closer attention to. And we're going to have to meld the needs of the mining industry with the manufacturing, technological, and logistical industries that are locating and evolving and growing in our community. Different types of technologically based industries need different types of transportation services, and we got to figure out how to provide those.
Sounds like a great theme for another show.
It is.
When we return, projects and programs, let's get some updates on what's being done to more efficiently move you around. That's coming up next.
Chronic pain is real. For those suffering, we want you to know there are options beyond opioids. These painkillers can serve a temporary medical purpose, but not without risk, and they don't address the underlying cause of the pain. The good news is you can take control of your pain management today. Ask your doctor about the dozens of non-opioid options to manage your pain and take charge of your health. Pain isn't a choice, but how you treat it could be. Visit knowyourpainmeds.com to learn more.
Nevada's direct link to Capitol Hill. Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce. The only statewide Nevada news show based in Washington, D.C. All the top federal matters that matter most to Nevadans. Marilee talks with our congressional delegation and other leaders about the federal news you need to know. Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce. Nevada's Eye on Capitol Hill.
I got my own iPod Touch and use my dad's login to get on gambling sites. Poker is the best, but I'm losing a lot. Since I'm too young to play, they're not allowed to keep the money and my dad won't find out. That's right, isn't it?
Are you studying tonight? We can meet up and study together. Just text me after. Okay. No!
There is no text, tweet, or call that's worth a life.
One pedestrian death is one too many.
Look up. And look out for each other.
Many things in a mother's life affect her pregnancy. You can help improve the health of mothers and babies in Nevada by completing a Pregnancy Risk Assessment Monitoring System, or PRAMS, survey from the Nevada Division of Public and Behavioral Health and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The survey asks new moms about their experience before, during, and after pregnancy. Responses are confidential. If you receive a PRAMS survey, please share your story.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
Was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text-to-emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies. Selfie, nailed it.
We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on man, let's split a ride home.
Want more federal news that affects Nevada, its businesses, and its residents? Then you need to subscribe to Nevada's Washington Watch newsletter, your sole source of online news direct from Washington, D.C. Visit joycecommunications.com and subscribe today.
And it is time for our closing segment of today's Eye on Washington. We've had as our special guest today, Lee Gibson, the Executive Director of the RTC of Washoe County. Mr. Gibson, we've been talking about the importance of federal funding and especially longer term funding for your planning purposes. Now, I know there are too many projects to list here that you have planned out, mostly very long term, but I want to talk about maybe start with the Spaghetti Bowl update and Virginia Street Bus Rapid Transit Project, and anything else you want to update our viewers and listeners about.
Sure. Well, with the Spaghetti Bowl, NDOT did an excellent job completing the environmental impact statement and getting a record of decision. That's the end of the road for an environmental impact statement. They did it in 2 years. Which I got to give them. Kudos. Great job. I've been doing this for almost 30 years in the state of Nevada, and I don't recall an environmental impact statement for such a project being done in such a short time.
Wow.
There has been a little bit of a challenge with respect to getting a contractor on board. The single most important part of that project is the east to south movement. That's from I-80 eastbound to southbound 580. So if you live in the Somerset area, or if you live off of Keystone and you take I-80 and you try to head south to go to South Reno to work, or maybe even to Carson City, that's one of the most congested areas. NDOT is working on a plan to expedite those improvements. They ran into a little bit of a bump in the road in that they've had to change their delivery method, but they're still moving forward, and we're looking forward to seeing a contractor get on board maybe within the next 12 to 18 months. So that's good news. With respect to the Virginia Street BRT, that is a project I'm extremely proud of. This is where our community has come together, spent probably 4 or 5 years just in the planning phase to discuss what we're going to do. We got that discussion done. We're 15 months away from completion. Kudos go to the RTC Board of Directors for a steady hand guiding planning and construction. And I want to do a shout out to Mayor Hillary Sheevy, and I want to do a shout out to the Reno City Council for their great partnership. They're like family. We can talk to each other and have a great dialogue. When we're done with that project and have wider sidewalks and the bus service improved, it's going to be a great improvement. Be able to connect Midtown to UNR. I just can't say enough great things.
Take us back full circle. What's the importance of long-term planning and long-term funding when you're talking about projects like this?
It's real easy, Marilee. It's called getting it right. And I can just feel in my bones that on Virginia Street, where we took our time planning because we knew there was certainty of funding in the FAST Act through the Federal Transit Administration's Capital Investment Grant Program, we were able to get it right.
Versus year to year.
Versus year to year.
Okay.
And by the way, just to plug, this is the second Federal Transit Administration Capital Investment Grant project in our state. I'm very proud of that, and I'm very proud of just the partnership we have in Northern Nevada. We don't argue about who's going to do the project, we just get it done.
Great way to end the show. Thanks for being here
Thank
again.
you.
That does wrap up today's Eye on Washington. I hope you'll join us next time for another look at federal matters that matter most to you in Nevada. In the meantime, though, we are always here for you, providing all the federal news that Nevadans need to know. Just go to our website. It's joycecommunications.com. And while you're there, you can check out all the federal issues that impact Nevada. You can like us on Facebook and follow me on Twitter. Catch up with any shows you may have missed on our YouTube page. Thanks so much for joining us today on Eye on Washington. I'm Marilee Joyce in Washington, D.C. Have a great day.
Thank you for watching Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce. Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce airs statewide in Nevada solely due to the generosity of our sponsors. Can your company help us continue our mission to remain Nevada's top source of federal news? If you can help us help Nevadans, please visit joycecommunications.com/WordPress/EOW sponsors and join us today. That's joycecommunications.com/WordPress/EOW sponsors.